Hello everyone, welcome to episode 191 of Floating Through Film. This week we continue our experimental film series with Jordan Belson. But before we get started, let me introduce my co-hosts here, Blake.
What's up?
And Luke.
Hello.
So Jordan Belson, I only really found out about him because of this. Was that you? Okay.
No, who do you think it was?
Damn, yeah, no. It's like, who else would that be?
It's a recurring theme now.
No, it wasn't me.
Even though I was like, what the fuck is this guy doing over here?
No, she loved me.
She's more interested in your bag, honestly.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, no one wants to hear commentary on what my cat's doing right now.
Actually,
but,
maybe we should do a podcast of it where it's just we describe the cast the whole time.
She does seem curious, but anyway.
Documentary podcast, first ever documentary podcast.
We just described.
That's not true.
Which is actually this is something crazy about animals. Like, she would never know. Like, we just did a podcast. Like, let's just describe what Noah's doing for the podcast.
Yeah.
She would never know what the fuck we were doing. She would just, versus if we did it with a human, obviously they would know. But okay, so Jordan Belson. The reason I found out about him was because of this book I've been mentioning, William C. Weese's book, Light Moving in Time. Which is basically his book on experimental film. And honestly, that's how he describes experimental film, right? Literally light moving in time, the recording of light moving in time. And he mentions Jordan Belson in chapter 6 of his book, with actually a couple other directors, but I hadn't really heard of him until I read that chapter. Or actually, I just saw he was going to write about him, and I read and watched them. But it's kind of crazy, how... Let me start, because I don't know how to start with him, and it's going to be interesting even talking about him in the series, because it feels like there's so much, but also, he's trying to go for, in a way, indescribable images,
Yeah.
But,
so here we are going to...
Let me ask you this.
Describe it.
Let me put it this way. Are there any directors that you think of when you watch these movies? Hitchcock.
Mainly just the Vertigo dream sequence.
Okay.
I thought of that at some point.
Okay.
I forgot which one.
I guess he probably did one of the earlier ones, if I had to guess, but...
Yeah. Maybe Sans Soleil.
I would say a genre of movies in general, which is sci-fi.
Sci-fi, yes.
Because 2001, I feel like Kubrick clearly ripped off some of these images, man.
I mean, that's one of the directors I was gonna bring up. But yes, there's another director too. Both of these directors have some connection to Jordan Belson in terms of, because if you go even look up stuff what movies were influenced, 2001 influenced by, Jordan Belson comes up. Allures, one of the ones we watched. That one is apparently specifically influential in 2001, and also one we're not doing is called Re-Entry, but that one is about basically it starts with a rocket ship and it's supposed to be about the end of the movie is kind of you're it's a more world conscious kind of thing, kind of similar to 2001's journey.
Okay.
But and apparently in one of the articles I read that Kubrick even tried to work with. He talked to Belson about working on a project or something, but it was crazy. But who's the other? Is there another director that you can think of?
Give us a hint what you're...
if I use the word cosmic imagery.
Nicholas Ray Rossellini.
Cosmic imagery.
Okay, Rossellini makes sense.
Let me put it this way, and maybe you'll definitely get it. Cosmic imagery mixed with The Family.
David Lynch.
Malik.
Tree
of Life.
Yeah, fuck.
Well,
yeah, you should feel embarrassed, Luke.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, how are you getting this right? This is crazy. Malik should have been the first guest.
I wasn't thinking of modern. I was thinking more classic.
Well, see, that's what also makes Belson crazy. Malik also, during the Tree of Life, apparently the visual effects team and Malik obviously, they specifically watched Belson's movies. They for inspiration. And apparently in the article, this was on the visuals, I forgot what article it is, but anyway, they talked about how even Malik approached Belson, and this was in the early 2000s, about working on a project. So that's Kubrick in the fucking 60s and Malick in like the early 2000s. Yeah. And it's crazy because like that makes so much sense why this director like clicked with me like right away. Because those are two of like literally the directors that made me get interested in movies in the first place. And it's basically for the same kind of reason, which almost feels like Belson is like almost like the most purist, even more like than those two are, which they like if we have to put it in like these kind of abstract terms, they're more representational directors. You know, they still have to use narratives to get to those kind of images. You know, yeah. But like you can say, like Belson's just like I said with all experimental film, like they don't need narrative excuses. You know, to get to these images. It is crazy because in this article I read about like the influences of 2001, it starts with let me just read this because you could say it applies to Belson too, because he's talking about how basically at the time Kubrick wanted to make a sci-fi film, but that wasn't like sci-fi films obviously at the time, you know, because most of them were like genre pictures, which like with monsters,
like Planet of the Apes and stuff.
Yeah, that kind of film. So he says, certainly Kubrick took little inspiration from the sensational, unscientific sci-fi that terrified 1950s audiences. His mind was not in the cinema, but in the stars. Together with the writer Arthur C. Clarke, he aspired to make the ultimate film about, quote, man's relationship to the universe, unquote, avidly consuming all he could read about space and science anthropology. An entry in Clarke's journal, The Lost Worlds of 2001, reads, quote, Stanley calls after screening H.G. Wells' Things to Come and says he'll never see another movie I recommend, unquote. I don't know if you guys have heard of that movie, too. It's like a 1930 sci-fi movie called Things to Come.
Things to Come, you said?
Yeah. I guess it's based on H.G. Wells' story. But it kind of just goes with that theme of, like, Kubrick just not liking the sci-fi movies at the time. But I found this, in that quote where he says, Kubrick's mind was not in the cinema, but in the stars. It, like, reminded me of this other Belson quote I had read where he says, quote, I've always been embarrassed by being on underground film programs and shown with people whose work just made me uncomfortable to be seen in their company. They would go for nasty, seamy stuff, and I was always going for the stars. I had to back out of all of it, unquote. And, like, apparently, like, yeah, I also mentioned the Malick stuff, too, but, I guess before I get into my general introduction of just, like, Belson and stuff, let me ask you, what are your overall thoughts on Belson? Like, what are the words that come to mind, if any? I'll start with you, Blake.
So I liked him a lot, and mostly it's because I felt like he was trying to make me meet God, or just like especially like because I just went kind of from the first one down of your OneDrive.
I think I had them listed in chronological.
They were not chronological, at least whenever
they were alphabetical.
Yeah, because like I just started watching, and it was like the first stuff was just like he's like basically just showing you the cosmos, like the formation of like galaxies. I'm pretty sure with like the first one is what I thought or something, like my overall thinking. But there was just like more where it was just like these images are literally trying to make you see God, in my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or just very like very magical. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. But some of the images are also like real images too.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how he filmed all this stuff. I'm assuming it was a lot of real stuff.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask. Like, what do you think? Like, what are these images? Like, is it animation? Is it?
I don't know, honestly. Like that was one of my like. I was watching these and I was like, I don't know if this is like kind of some of the stuff we were doing in week 1. Where it's just drawings on a film reel.
Yeah, like painting on
or
film.
If it's just he's oversaturating the shit out of his images.
He traveled back in time and filmed the creation of the universe. That's my theory.
Okay,
He's a secret time traveler.
I can get that. I can get there.
I like that. I mean, that's definitely what he wants you to feel anyway, maybe. At least with some of them.
Yeah.
But I don't know, what about you, Luke? Is there any...
Cosmic, colorful... A lot of shapes, a lot of stuff going on. Pretty crazy.
Maybe is there any of them that stick out to you? Any of the movies, like any of the names?
I mean, I love Raga's.
Raga.
I love Raga.
Maybe I'll come back to that in a second.
Cycles was one of my favorites.
Okay.
Phenomena,
I'm going to explain at least.
Phenomena.
how he made some of them.
I like Phenomena.
Oh yeah, no, it's.
I don't know. Have you heard of the photo from this year called "The Fall of Icarus"?
Yes, I think your brother showed me that.
Because Cycles reminds me of just like kind of
Okay.
just like something like that
Yeah,
almost.
yes,
I don't know.
I can see that.
Which I read. I read at least the Letterboxd summary for that one. It was like he was trying to go for something about like a god looking down at humanity or something, and I was like, okay, I can kind of see that now.
That quote they used for Cycles?
I think so.
That might have been a different one.
I don't know.
But I'll explain Cycles too, because it's really interesting how that is made. But actually, this is like the first point for Belson, because he is a very abstract, and he wants feelings first. Like, that's, like, before any of the stuff I'm going to talk about, which I think, especially for Blake, because I know you like the spiritual stuff, especially Buddhism, more than, maybe more than the average person. Like, once you get, like, maybe, like, I mean, you can kind of get the hints with just the titles alone, or, like, maybe what he's trying to go for and stuff. But, like, he's definitely going for feeling first, and, like, he wants you to have your own meaning, like, to generate, So, like, if you think this is about meeting God, like, that's what it's about, Like,
Yeah.
what I'm about to say doesn't disqualify that, But, like, I think it can also help, like, it's almost like the same way, like, in 2001 or something, that he uses a narrative structure to kind of reach this kind of theme of, the evolution of man or consciousness. Belson, for all these films, he has these kind of structures behind them, to where if you realize what he's trying to go for, they can at least hand some a little bit. First I wanted to read this quote from basically where he said he had and you can kind of say this is how it defines him as an artist for the rest of his career, but he says he had like a almost midlife crisis, where he says, quote, "When I was about 35, I had, I won't say midlife, but a 1/3 life crisis. I was profoundly dissatisfied with everything about myself and my life, and I decided to see if there wasn't another level or dimension to life that I could turn to as a way out. Gradually, I got into Hatha Yoga, which seemed to like a perfect method for turning the mind and body to be more receptive, to understand more than just the brute facts of existence. This led to the study of other Eastern philosophies. Up until that time, I was completely agnostic. I had always found religion and religiosity repulsive, actually. I had a friend who became very religious in a proselytizing, Bible-quoting way, and whenever I saw him coming down the street, I'd hide in doorways. But eventually, I was able to think about spiritual things without cringing. Yoga was the key to it all. Hatha Yoga gives you a system of very clear, precise technique for developing the spiritual side to your consciousness. I stopped eating meat and became a vegetarian, an extremely important step, but unfortunately, especially at the time, a step out of society. My theory was that if I could refine and perfect myself, I would become a better artist." That's basically what Sidney says that makes him a spiritual filmmaker, as he says, quote, "The preparation of the tools and of himself is equally important to the act of transformation itself." And I almost kind of talked about that with Darren, where she talks about how, like, basically you can't separate the morals from a film from its structure, And there's some, I have a quote later on, but Belson says something like how most abstract films, they're trying to escape from the world or something, but he sees them more as like almost like religious objects, where like you're supposed to feel almost changed a little bit to where you can then experience the world in a new way, The same with a lot of filmmakers, you could say, that they're trying to do. But some background is he started as a painter and graphic designer, and then I guess he made this early film called Transmutations that was lost, and then Oscar Fischinger, like one of the early week one directors we watched, Motion Painting #1, he really liked that film, and he's like he basically saw him as like he could be a student in I think he called it the studies of visual music, something like that. Basically, he saw him as like his potential, basically, which is funny. And then Belson was also really famous in the time, and you could say maybe he's even more influential for this. Is like, I think it was during the mid-50s. They had these things in San Francisco called the Vortex concerts, which were these like And Belson even says himself, they were the first to use planetariums for something other than astronomy. And apparently this was in San Francisco.
This would be cool as shit.
Yeah, they would have these like musicians that would come and play, and he would control these like huge lighting sets to this music. And then they use like the planetarium basically for these light shows mixed with music. And apparently they were like super really popular for like 2 or 3 years.
Only 2 or 3 years?
Yeah,
I would go to one of these now.
I know it sounds good now, but like apparently like they say like these inspired like basically rock concerts of the future, basically modern concerts.
I mean, I guess there are a lot. There are a lot of pyrotechnics and shit.
On his Wikipedia, it says he had an influence on George Lucas.
I would believe it.
I mean, I just mentioned 2001. Like Douglas Trumbull knew about Jordan Belson.
Who?
Douglas, the guy that did special effects for 2001. Douglas Trumbull.
Okay.
And like one of the articles I read was like because they were mentioning a lot of the like there was another experimental film that they basically stole the shot of, like when he's starting to go crazy in 2001. When he's first starting to enter the thing and he's like freezing. Like there's like another experimental film where like basically they use that same shot, and then they're like a lot of the slit scan stuff is like from like Belson and this other director named James Whitney, and they're like. It's like borderline, like where like, they say great artists steal. Like it's like up to that degree, they're saying in the film because a lot of people think 2001 was like it's just like so revolutionary, like how new it was, but honestly it was new in terms of how we see a lot of narrative new filmmakers just like where they're taking from experimental film or something and then applying a narrative context.
Well, that's why I said whenever I brought up just the sci-fi genre earlier and how it reminded me of 2001 specifically.
Yes, I mean that's not
because I was like checking the dates on some of these, going like, when did this come out?
No, exactly. The ones that would have specifically influenced that we watched would be Allures, because 2001 was 1968, but all like the later ones we watched are more influential. You can see on Trade of Life, I would say. Which is funny for most of his life, because that's what's crazy is like all these like we mentioned George Lucas, Malick, Kubrick, all 3 of them. Like at the end of the day, even though like 2001 by today's standards is a very small film for how many people worked on it and stuff. They still had multiple people working on it in these huge budgets. Belson was by himself making these. And for a large part of his career, he basically worked as a commercial artist or like as a graphic designer like in the commercial industry. And then he just made these like when he could. And then later in his career, he just made them off grants and stuff. But like,
grind.
Yeah. No, it's crazy because, I was going to mention his technique later, but like one part about his technique is like, especially after Allures, I think uses a little bit of animation, but all the films we watch except for Raga, which is
Raga, I was about to say
Raga's animation. All the rest are he's filming live stuff.
Okay.
Oh, what the fuck?
Yeah.
See, because that's like because some of the stuff that he's doing it looks like he's just like taking colors completely out to make it just like I don't know, like there are some I could see it going both ways. I could see it going both ways.
No, it's all these movies, dude. That's what I'm saying. It's like
if we saw this like if we what is that?
No, that's one of my favorite shots.
What is that?
The sounds too are all his. He's recording his old sounds.
Did he, like,
that's what I'm saying. Like he's one of the true independent, like by himself.
Did he make it on a computer or some shit? And film
no,
a computer
no. Actually, Cycles is kind of an interesting relationship with that. That's why I was going to mention Cycles a little bit. But let me mention how some other critics.
Is that a real sky? Is that a real sky?
It looks like a sky. Yeah, like that was one of the things.
No,
what sky? Where in the world is that sky though?
No, that wasn't a real sky.
It's not in fucking Arkansas. I can tell you that.
It's not in fucking Arkansas.
God damn.
But he was like mostly secretive for this like technique. Damn, I forgot to say I was going to mention some of my sources. So I forgot to read at the beginning. I'll mention them as I go, hopefully.
No, you're stealing all these ideas confirmed. These ideas, they're your own ideas.
I'll try to mention them as I go. Let me just read them now, because I only have the names of the authors later on, so I don't want to mention the titles. Okay, so sources. William C. Weiss, Light Moving in Time. Gene Youngblood, from his book Expanded Cinema, which is like this huge book on experimental film. He has like a chapter on Belson. Connor Murphy has this article called Between Creation and Nothing. Susan Hansel, I just found this like randomly online. She wrote this thesis in 1974 called The Films of Jordan Belson. P. Adam Sidney, of course, in his book Visionary Film in American Avant-Garde, he has a section on Belson. And then the last one I think I have is William Moritz, Last of the Great Masters. he has an article. I think if I mention anyone else, I'll say it. But okay. So anyway, the last director I would have expected in that thesis I read by Susan Hansel, she wrote this in 1974. She says this American critic loved Belson as one of the few American. She was saying apparently, American critic. Kale? Yeah,
what the?
Loved Belson because she was apparently saying.
Pauline Kael is so inconsistent. Like,
I mean, most people are.
She especially so.
No, because apparently she was berating the movie scene for lack of aesthetic commitment, sensitivity, talent, and purpose. And she praised Jordan Belson as one of the few that actually was she said, quote, reached new peaks of film art. Gene Youngblood, he says, quote, certain phenomena manage to touch a realm of our consciousness so seldom reached that when it is awakened, we are shocked and profoundly moved. It's an experience of self-realization as much as an encounter with the external world. The cosmic films of Belson possess this rare and enigmatic power, unquote. And then Connor Murphy. All right, I think I'm gonna teach you guys some new words today because I hadn't heard of these words, but maybe you have. Do you guys know what the word aphantasia means?
Aphantasia?
Yes.
Fantasy, but like in the mind.
Close. So
I pulled that out of nowhere.
That's actually really close, but think of the word a now. So you said fantasia, like that would be fantasia.
Not of the mind.
Not of the mind.
But it kind of close. So basically,
affluent. What does fluent and then affluent mean?
Affluent.
Well, no, it's not that actually. It's like the opposite case. But anyway, because that would mean the opposite. But because he says, quote, I've been thinking a lot about aphantasia lately. The notion of being unable to produce a coherent mental image of anything, whether real or unimaginary. Or real or imaginary.
Wait, no, this is a real thing. Like
no, that's what he's saying. He's like, that's what he's saying. I've been thinking a lot about that thing. So basically, you're not able to have any image.
Like if someone says like, here, think of this apple, and you can't think of like what an apple looks like.
Yes.
And I'm just like, how?
Yes. But then there's another extreme, which is called hyperaphantasia. No, just hyperphantasia, not aphantasia. Hyperphantasia, which is basically. And I had to look this up, the condition of having an extremely vivid imagination, where basically the visualizations of things are so clear where they rival real perception. So like if, in one sense, you can't have any mental image, hyperphantasia would be, the mental image is so clear, basically feels exactly like real perception. And he says, if you compare hyperphantasia to representational cinema, right? Because he's saying like, cinema tries to create images like in your memory that are almost real like reality, right? Yeah. He says Belson is almost like closer to the other extreme. He's trying to move away totally from that, to where almost he's trying to approach that. Like you said, God, he says the void. He's trying to approach basically as far as away possible from this kind of hyperphantasia cinema, to the part where you almost get to know images, like, which is funny because a lot of directors have said very similar things. Like Kiarostami says, like, if I could make a film out of nothing, I would. Like he has some quote about that, let me read. Have you heard of the guy Henry Kaiser? He's the composer for. I know a director that Blake likes.
He sounds familiar.
I don't know.
Herzog. He's composed.
Oh, okay.
He's done a lot. Like apparently, he did the music. He was a music producer for Grizzly Man. He composed another one of Herzog's movies. But he's more of a musician, which is crazy. He's a musician, but then he says
Kaiser.
Kaiser. Kaiser.
Oh, okay.
It's crazy. So this is a composer, right? But he says Belson has influenced him more than any other artist. And he says, quote...
I could see that.
Oh, this is what he says. He said, quote, Belson is one of the most original artists I know in any medium. He created a new art form and the techniques to realize it. But beyond that, the content of this film is deep, sublime, and enlightening. The films mean something. They communicate profound, deep knowledge in dynamic, moving visual terms. Mm-hmm. Anyone can immediately access the beauty and surface contents of his work. I think Jordan has somehow found a way to project his many years of meditative spiritual quest and research outward onto film stock. Words fail in describing the richness of Belson's fantastic imagery. See the films. They will illuminate you.
Yeah, well, because the reason I could say even before you said that, like, I could see anyone watching these and coming away with, like a musical person coming away with ideas for, like, music, because we said, like, week one, some of these shorts creators were making the movies based on the music.
Yes.
If I watch this movie or these movies, I could put. Well, I mean, I'm not a musician, obviously, but I could easily see musicians putting symphonies over what we're seeing. Like,
actually, that's a great point. Can you look at my review for Raga? Because I forgot to actually write it down. Yeah, but I had on
How do you spell
Letterboxd.
that again?
RAGA.
Oh,
But this is.
I said, how do you spell that? And I literally already typed it. Right.
But
What
so
do
yeah,
you
just,
want me to look at?
my review for it.
Jordan Belson. Beauty. I like
No, the other.
beauty. I can't help it. The films were always meant to stand on their own. Actually, the films are not meant to be explained, analyzed, or understood. They are more experiential. Did I say that right? Experiential?
Just keep going.
Experiential.
Experiential. You had it.
More like listening to music.
Yeah, that was the main point.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
You need to read
That was
it
the big
there.
point.
Yeah.
My bad.
But yeah, experiential like music, right? And because this is, I forgot to read this quote, but Kubrick said this was his goal for 2001: A Space Odyssey. I intended the film to be an intensely subjective experience that reaches the viewer at an inner level of consciousness, just as music does. To explain a Beethoven symphony would be to emasculate it by erecting an artificial barrier between conception and apperception. And that's just like just that idea, the artificial barrier between conception and apperception. And like the idea of like he's trying to reach your inner level of consciousness, like that's what like Belson, you could say that's what literally Belson is trying to do, which is so crazy that Kubrick's saying that in 2001 because Kubrick gets the kind of mechanical director, the cold director criticism so much, like even about 2001. So him saying that is just like it's honestly why I love the movie still. But I actually rewatched it this week.
Okay.
Just for and it's crazy how much like that movie is literally about. Like once you watch Belson's films, like 2001 is about that. You know, like you don't even see the narrative or plot anymore. You just see like kind of humans' consciousness like reaching this new step. You know, that's what it's about. And like even to the point where like in 2001 there's that like black
The black rectangle.
the black rectangle.
Or
I forget what
whatever
people
it's
call
called,
it.
yeah.
Damn, what do people call it? I know people have a name for it, but
I haven't seen
For
that
what?
movie since the IMAX.
the black thing in 2001.
The black thing?
Yeah, the black rectangle.
Oh,
Black
monolith?
Monolith.
Monolith.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
there
knew
it
that's
is.
what
There
was
it
called.
is. This is why you're the memory guy.
But like Belson has like he has this like black sphere that comes about in all his movies, like this like black kind of this circle that always appears randomly. You know, it's almost like to me like they're very similar to this like representation of like consciousness. You know,
Okay.
or evolving consciousness. So let me go to what Susan Hansel says about the films. She says, quote, "If one wasn't given a hint about what these films concern by the titles, by Belson, or what is written about his work, one might conceivably never know what they're about. It depends on the experiences of the viewer. Belson has experienced psychedelics, meditation, and extensive study on astronomy and metaphysics. To the extent that the viewer has felt similar experiences, he can perhaps identify. But beyond this, anyone can feel and understand the beauty and explosive energy of Belson's films. The compelling, vivid covers and atmospheric effects, coupled with the mysterious electronic sounds, are a magical mystery tour that is enthralling to watch. One not only watches, one is drawn into his films, optically and auditorily. There's nothing static in his films. They are experiences of constant transformation, as our universe is constantly transforming, changing, growing. The beautiful patterns he creates are a springboard for the viewer's perceptions, associations, and imagination. They give energy in an intense meditative way, and thus are very powerful alchemical substances." And unquote. And especially that last part, this this is one of the main themes I think you could say of his films, is this constant transformation. You know, like almost you can never pause the film at 2 points and like see the same image. You know, like at every moment, like there's some image changing and it's like shifting into something else. Like it's expanding, collapsing, you know, disappearing. Like, and it reminded me of this is what Maya Deren says what film is. She says, quote, "Film is a two-dimensional surface, but it's not governed as other two-dimensional surfaces, such as a canvas. It is two-dimensional, but also metamorphic. What is important is how one moment changes into another, how changing is constant. It is the changing of things, not the way things are. It is a time form." And then she even says like that concept is based on the book of the I Ching, which is I know you probably heard of that book.
Yeah.
But which is funny because like Belson's film is also based on kind of Eastern spiritual ideas, you know, and so it's kind of funny. Like I've always felt this way, like reading Indian philosophy and just like Buddhist philosophy. Like a lot of these are very like filmic ideas, you know, a lot of the way they talk about just like reality.
Yes.
And so it's funny that the two like these filmmakers have to say the same thing. But one more quote, then I'm going to go to like basically the two themes I have is from this guy Ernest Kallenbach, where he says, quote, "The utterly non-verbal nature of the films, which of course is one of the chief signs of Belson's immense skills and artists, makes them impossible to render on paper." And then he describes the movie phenomenon, where he says you could say it contains dots of colors, fluted shapes suggestive of organ pipes, small arch-like shapes, cloudy intermixing forms, flame-like sinking shapes, hisses, shrieks, whirs. But then he says, "But such a description cannot hope to call up the uncanny emotions the film arouse, which are those of some kind of mystical experience. What are the films about? Belson emphasizes that the films are the record of their own discovery. Making them provides the focus of an extraordinarily ascetic life. The films are at once the result and the devices of contemplation. Hence, Belson's reluctance to have his films treated as public amusements, even when the so-called underground film. Belson is not using the medium as an exhibitionist plaything. He is interested in what makes the soul reverberate at its deepest levels. And films with this aim, he believes, should be seen privately or not at all." And that's where it reminds me of that Kubrick quote I just read about, like, he's trying to reach your inner consciousness, because in a way these movies feel very epic, you know, like, I mean, obviously 2001 does, but even, like, you could say Belson is trying to, like, with this like, cosmic stuff. But almost like, this is actually my first, my topic is, Belson is trying to basically combine, in his view, like or how I describe it, inner experience and outer experience. You know, he's trying to basically, like, almost like, in a very spiritual sense, like, show, like, those two are the same thing, you know. And he says, quote, "The distinction between an external scene perceived in the usual way and the scene perceived with the inner eye is very slight to me." Unquote. And then Susan Hansel says, "Jordan Belson has been a San Francisco experimental filmmaker for the last 25 years, just as many years as he's been practicing yoga daily and studying spiritual principles, including Buddhism. There are significant relationships between these two activities. Belson is attempting in his works to both illustrate abstractly the great spiritual teachings and to recreate on the screen how it feels to be in a deep meditative state. The inner imagery of the mind and astral travel, such as out-of-body experiences, conscious dreaming, etc., are similar to cosmic astronomical phenomenon," he finds. And then Gene Youngblood says, "Cinema to Belson is a matrix where he's able to relate external experience and to internal experience." And before I go on, like, that reminds me of, like, that's why I bring up Malick too, because like, Malick's movies click for me where, like, I realize, especially in Tree of Life, but you can say almost all of his films are kind of about this kind of dual going back and forth. Like, in 1 second, like in Thin Red Line, you see this extreme wide shot, this whole battle going on. And the next moment, you see this, like, extremely conscious, personal, individual person. And he's, like, almost, like, relating the two back and forth, you know, almost like saying, like, they're one and the same experience, you know. And, like, all of his films have this kind of, basically, drive behind them. Like, Tree of Life is obviously the most specific one, because it's, like, it's just about this family. And then all of a sudden, it cuts to this, like, creation of time, or creation of the universe. Yeah, and then it just goes back to the family story, you know, without any like, well, narrative connection, really.
Yeah, like, it's kind of weird how it is too, because it's like, doesn't it start with just like one scene where it's with the it's like the opening scene's them like grieving over their son, and it's like they're older, and then it cuts to the creation, which is, you know, however long it is. And then when it cuts back, it's before the initial scene. It's like when they were like, it's when the kid that died was younger with his other brothers, and then it's like the story of that family from then. So it's just like, yeah.
Like why he chose that spot?
Yeah.
Like it goes backwards in time.
Yeah, backwards. Like, yeah.
Well, like time doesn't matter in that way. Like he's only just
Yeah.
showing moments of like experience with the universe, you know.
Yeah.
But William C. Weiss on his book, he basically keeps it even this kind of relation of the inner to the outer experience. He basically even keeps it to within visual perception itself. Because I remember I mentioned Brackage last week, talking about how he was literally trying to show like what like the inner light is, or like what your like nerve systems see, you know, in a way. Like when light hits them, he's like trying to show that kind of imagery. But this is what William C. Weiss says. He says, quote, "Certainly it would seem that hallucinations are as true to certain perceptual processes that begin within the mind, as perceptions of the external world are true to processes that begin with light falling on the retina. Similarly, one may call inner imagery abstract, but the perception of it can be as concrete as the perception of the outer world. In matters of visual perception, it is best to avoid hard and fast distinctions between inner and outer, abstract and concrete, and more for that matter, East and West, except in the sense that West has been more inclined to insist on these distinctions than the East has been. By collapsing these distinctions, one can begin to understand how inner vision can be literal and communicable to, quote, increased ability to see, unquote." And Belson even says this. He says, quote, "There's the hallucinatory aspect of imagery is certainly inherent in my work, and in the ideas relevant to my work," unquote. And this is honestly maybe my favorite Belson quote. This goes with the idea of how he sees like what he's doing. You know, he doesn't see a distinction between like, you know, like you pointed out some of the more representational stuff is later, like the nature ones. I think that's an Infinity, where you get like way more nature shots than it usually does. Mm-hmm. But to him, it's no different than showing like actually Infinity ends on like an atom almost, or something, like a cell being formed or something.
It ends
like
on
that.
an infinity loop or something.
Or is it? Okay. Yeah. But doesn't it look like a cell or something?
It might look like,
and then maybe
a
it turns
cell.
into an infinity.
It definitely turns into an infinity
Yeah.
loop, but
but he's talking about imaging. He's basically talking about image producing equipment like the camera. And he says, quote, "The mind has produced these images and has made the equipment to produce them physically. In a way, it's a projection of what's going on inside, phenomena thrown out by the consciousness, which we are then able to look at. In a sense, I'm doing something similar to the clairvoyant Ted Serois, who can project his thoughts onto Polaroid film. Only I have to filter my consciousness through an enormous background of art and filmmaking." So, like, that's why he feels his film is so personal, because he honestly believes like the stuff he's filming is the stuff he's seen in his inner consciousness, you know. And that's why he says
he's like a mental asylum patient.
How
when they
many
draw on the walls? I was trying to create like an interesting analogy there, but I don't know.
But that's why I think the spiritual practice is important to him, because he wants it. It's supposed to be non-objective. I mean, like, yes, personal in that way, but it's not supposed to be like just like a one-person thing, you know.
it sounds like he had ayahuasca.
I mean, he probably did,
Ayahuasca?
especially in his early years. Like,
it's a very, very potent hallucinogenic drug that I want to try at some point in my life.
At least once. I would like to try it. But
hopefully the feds aren't listening to this.
Wait, what?
What?
I said hopefully the feds aren't listening.
You know, you can't get it here, I don't think.
My name is Luka Doncic, and I was.
My name is Luka Doncic.
No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna incriminate him.
Oh, they believe you, yeah.
It's funny because Connor Murphy says like his images, they basically don't seem like they're from reality. They seem like I like that he says like his images seem like they're beamed from some unreality, some heightened state outside perception in a way that forces us into internality and introspection, which I think is a really good way. It's like like he's trying to make these kind of meditation objects by giving us imagery that is like not from like almost not representational, you know, like things that make you have to think about them in a way, especially if you are paying attention. Because he says, quote, "This is in part because he treats the image not as a text but as a totem or a monument, It's something architectural, experiential, a spiritual place for navigating the eye of the mind, which is to say montage, apparatus, and representation become irrelevant in the light of his philosophy of non-objectivism. And instead, his films are concerned with the intersection of inner and outer space, with the transformation of some abstract object or emotion into a non-objective image, form, and vice versa. Especially that line, the intersection of inner and outer space, that goes to that same kind of theme. And then, basically, this is a very similar idea, but like it's like another thing that kept coming up like through all these sources I was reading. Is just like the same way the inner and outer. You could say like another kind of this duality that he kind of is trying to make into one is the physical and the metaphysical, and that's where to me that's what's so important. Where I say he's first of all he's doing all these by himself. That just alone is crazy. Like even if he was animating these, that would just make it alone crazy enough. But once I say like he's filming real light, you know, like he's trying to by the end of his career, like he's trying to film just like real light, and a lot of it is just what he called an optical desk, which is like just stuff he was like using mirrors and different light forms and smokes and stuff like what he was very secretive about his methods, but like the one time he talks about it, he like mentions like an optical desk or something.
Interesting.
But he was very clear, like he was filming concrete things, you know. He's filming his camera's filming real stuff in real time, you know. But that's what's crazy. It's like that's where the metaphysical comes in. It's like you said he's trying to like at least you have that feeling that he's trying to almost like reach God or have you reach God or something, that kind of feeling, you know. But just from some guy at his desk like filming light in his room, his optical desk. And also there are some images that are outside too, obviously in the later ones.
There are a lot of just interesting things you can do though if you have like an optical desk, whatever hell that actually means. But like I'm thinking of like just a desk with a shit ton of mirrors on it. Like you could create a lot of interesting images with that. So
I mean, I'm going to mention this in a second because there's actually one more director I didn't mention that has this theme too in one of his movies. That it's also one of the all-time greats. But this is what Belson says, quote, "The tangibles and intangibles are mixed in the metaphysic, the image as a container of wisdom and knowledge," unquote. And then Gene Youngblood says, "Basic to this enigma is the disconcerting fact that Belson's work seems to reside equally in the physical and metaphysical. Any discussion of cinema becomes immediately subjective and symbolic, as we shall soon see. Yet the undeniable fact of their concrete nature cannot be stressed too frequently." And that's what I was like basically saying. It's like this concrete nature of like he's filming real things. Like this is a big part of his cinema, you know, like and like his also metaphysical opinions, you know, where like reality itself is metaphysical. You know, even the concrete is metaphysical in a way.
So he's Bazinian, do you think?
Yes, but I think this is also just makes him the purest filmmaker because. When I was talking about Darren, or honestly, like when I talk about Bresson and fragmentation, it's like what do they believe they're doing? It's like they're filming reality, but then transforming it through film itself to give you a metaphysical experience in a way, you know. And to me, that's what makes Belson so pure because it's like in this Bressonian kind of way, where like Bresson is using fragmentation of body parts and movement and stuff. Like Belson's doing that, but like. Literally through images he doesn't want anyone to know, like how they're even formed, or like just like it could be anything. You know, that's like you said you could just imagine him at his desk, but that still doesn't tell you how he's doing it. Really. Yeah. You know, all I know is like this is a guy by himself doing it. And Gene Youngblood says, with few exceptions, his work is not quote unquote abstract. Like the films of Len Lai, Hans Richter, Oscar Fischer, and Whitney's, it is concrete. Although a wide variety of meaning inevitably is abstracted from them. Now, although they do hold quite specific implications for Belson personally, the films remain concrete, objective experiences of kinesthetic and optical dynamism. They are at once the ultimate use of visual imagery to communicate abstract concepts, and the purest experiential confrontations between subject and object. In their amorphous, gaseous, cloud-like imagery, it is color, not line, which defines the form that ebbs and flows across the frame with uncanny impact. It is a stunning emotional force that lifts the films far beyond any realm of purity, into the most evocative and metaphysical dimensions of sight and sound. The films are literally super-empirical, that is, actual experiences of a transcendental nature. And I mean, that's a great way to say that too. But and then it's funny. He I forgot what film this was for. Actually, in Susan Hansel, she interviewed Belson for her thesis, what she was doing, and she showed him this. One of his favorite spiritual teachers is this famous Indian teacher named Sri Ramana Maharishi, and
That's a crazy name.
Ramana Maharishi. It's not that crazy, I don't think.
It's just like, damn. I wish my name.
I guess if you knew more Indian names, it's not that crazy. I think Maharishi means something like teacher or something.
I wish that was my name. It's like everyone had to like say that every time they like said my name.
I think his name is like Mahara's his name, and then Maharishi is like something about teacher.
Dude.
Look up what
My first name is literally one.
Wait, look up Maharishi. What that means? 'Cause I think it means something like teacher.
How do you spell that, bro?
Maha.
Wait.
Guess. We're gonna see if you can do it.
Rishi.
Yeah, there you go. You got it.
Maharishi.
Yeah.
Wait, meaning you said?
Yeah, meaning. Because I think it means something like teacher.
A great Hindu sage or spiritual leader.
Yeah, and so his name is Ramana. So Sri Ramana Maharishi. But because he existed during the 60s and 50s and stuff, and he a lot would compare cinema to, basically the self.
More technical definitions: a teacher of spiritual and mystical knowledge.
Okay, yeah.
So Danny's a Maharishi.
And so apparently Belson showed her this chart that I kind of want to read some of them to, which is goes with this concept physical and metaphysical in a way being the same. Where he says, and this is a chart from Sri Ramana Maharishi, where he says, the lamp inside, like the projector, is the cinema. In the same way, the self is like to humans. And he says the lens in front of the lamp is like the pure mind close to the self. The film, which is a long series of separate photographs, is the stream of latent tendencies consisting of subtle thoughts. The lens, the light passing through it, the lamp, which together form the focused light, is like the mind, the illumination of it, and the self, which together form the seer. The light passing through the lens and falling on the screen is like the light of the self emerging from the mind through the senses and falling on the world. The various kinds of pictures appearing in the light of the screen is like the various forms and names appearing as objects perceived in the light of the world. And then the mechanism which sets the film in motion is like the divine law manifesting the latent tendencies of the mind. And like, honestly, I just love that. That's just like one example I've like said like over the years. If you just like read about Indian philosophy a lot, you can kind of see like similar ways to how like film works. You know, this idea of like reality in your head being one thing, and then like the things going on the screen is just passing forms. You know, but the person seeing the forms is what makes reality work. You know, the same way like we've talked about with montage. Like the film is just without someone watching it, it's just images randomly on a screen. You know.
Yeah.
Without people applying narrative forms or meaning behind them, you know. But then the last thing before we get to the movies is I want to talk about about his technique, because like this is just like this may be the physical side, the experimental side that makes him honestly so special. Where first, before I read this Belson quote, I was going to read this quote from I've mentioned this painter Matisse before. He's one of my favorites. He's pretty popular. Like early 1900s painter, where he says, quote, "I've always tried to hide my own efforts and wanted my work to have the lightness and joyousness of springtime, which never lets anyone suspect the labors it has caused." And just that idea of he's trying to hide his own efforts and then hide how much labor. Like, I know Luke likes looking at look up Matisse's paintings for a second. Like, just look up Matisse paintings.
Matisse, yeah.
Matisse.
Oh, I already got it, brother.
Okay.
He bought you that tote bag.
But he gives you this peaceful feeling, but they don't look very complicated. You know, on the first glance, they look very, just like a lot of color, like very simple lines. Yeah. Look at the dance. This is like a very popular one.
The dance, you said?
Yeah. You might have even seen it once you recognize it, once you see it.
Whoa. They haven't got any clothes on.
They ain't got any clothes on.
But
let me pull this up. No, I'm just kidding.
I thought Luke was gonna show us, but
oh wait, is it the one where they're orange or
they're like all in a circle?
Well, there's like like the first two options. There's like one where they're like orange and one where
it's
they're
like all blue around them and
regular. Like there's this one.
Yeah,
the blue one. Yeah, it's that. No, it's the first one I was thinking of.
Yeah.
He might have redone it or something. I don't know. But that's the one I was. I mean, yeah.
Probably just a print.
But that one, just that kind of a simple feeling, but trying to hide.
Dancing in a circle naked with your bros. Yeah.
First of all, it always sucks seeing him on screen because even I didn't know this at first. But this painting is huge in real life.
Oh,
Like it's probably as big as this whole wall or something. But this is what Jordan Belson says. This is why it reminded me of that quote where he says, "quote People are always asking me how I make my images. Actually, I derive my imagery from many different sources. When I was working on the films, I was always experimenting with anything I thought might produce the kind of imagery I was interested in. Anything from lasers, optical printing, liquid crystals, to the facilities of an entire TV broadcasting studio. I tried everything. It probably doesn't show, but I didn't want it to show. I tried to be pretty ruthless about eliminating any images where the means by which the imagery was obtained was obvious. I didn't want the viewer to be more aware of the process than of the event taking place on screen. That's one reason I've never cared to discuss my techniques in any detail. I like a convincing illusion. Idle curiosity about how I produce the images can only spoil the experience of the films, as far as I'm concerned. But I will say I use a lot of different source material. There was no one way. Although there is a dominance of certain kind of imagery, I've always tried to include as many different possible elements. Mine is a composite imagery." Unquote. The one part I have to disagree with there is where he says, idle curiosity how I produce images can only spoil the experience. Because to me that one makes it even better. Like I'm saying, it's like this idea of like how he produces these like kind of majestic images. Like he feels like it might take away from the experience. For some people it might, you know, where they like learn behind the scenes of a film and they're like, oh, it takes away from the magic of it or something. But actually I'm going to talk about this with Ernie Gehr next week. But he says like one of the best parts of watching a film even when he was a little kid was wanting to know how they did it. Like the same way you watch a magic trick and you want to know.
That's what...
Like that's part of the magic is like wanting to know how.
I mean, my dad, literally every time we would watch a movie in my childhood, would immediately go to the special features afterwards to see how it was made. Which is fun. Like, I do like doing that stuff, too.
Yes.
I don't care as much.
Especially with...
I should, though.
like, how the film was made or something. Yeah. Like, for some people, he thinks, like, it would take away from the magic, but...
Definitely does not. It honestly makes it, like, more impressive.
Yes.
Once you realize all that goes into it, you're like, holy shit.
Especially he doesn't give away anything. He just like gives vague hints about, you know, he's doing this by himself with an optical desk, you know, some crystals and stuff. But yeah, he says it's he used an optical bench is what he called it.
So now it's a bench. That's way different than a
optical
desk.
bench. Yes. That tells us so much. But then he has this quote where he says, "I make full use of the graphic toolkit. Perspective, illusion, textures, colors, juxtaposition. This is the toolbox of an artist. I see no reason to abandon them. To throw away shading, for example, would be a great mistake. Perspective is a wonderful thing. Why not use it? Realism also. I have no problem making use of realism in my work from time to time. I just don't want to live there." Unquote. And then this is the... I wanted to know if you can figure out what movie and director, but specifically movie I'm talking about when I read this. So this is first Susan Hansel, and then she's going to quote Belson, where she says, "It seems possible for Belson to grasp his inspiration from creating images from the simplest things. He once said that within an arm's reach of where he was sitting, there was elements to which he could make a film. An electric light, a candle flame, colors and textures with glass and reflective substance, and even coffee could be used. Glue could become a light transmitter." And then she quotes Belson as saying, "I've seen galaxies forming on top of a coffee cup. Perfect. They look exactly like the real thing.
2 or 3 things.
They follow the sign laws." Exactly.
2 or 3 things.
Exactly. Dude, I was like so happy when I read that quote. I was like, oh my god, like that's like literally one of my all-time favorite scenes. And he's I don't even think he's seen that movie. So he has this quote. He's like he basically stopped going to the theaters after the '60s. Then he only went for like 2001 and actually. Fuck, I forgot to mention at the beginning, but Blake actually has seen some imagery from a Jordan Belson movie. You'll never guess it, but it's like one of these like random, of course, Blake has seen this movie.
Wait, give me a hint.
And I watched it this week too, and it's like they literally like use his movie images from I think Allures and a couple of other movies. It's a AI movie.
AI movie.
It's about an AI movie. It's
wait, so it's not an AI movie. It's about an AI.
Yeah, it's about an AI.
Is Blake watching AI?
So is it artificial intelligence?
Yeah, it's an artificial.
Okay.
No, it's not that movie. No,
damn it.
It's way older than that.
Oh, is it a Russian movie?
No,
damn it.
It might be British, but I think it's American actually. Yeah, that's American.
About
I don't think you'll get it because you probably forgot you saw this.
Okay, that's
Demon
that's
Seed.
insulting. I recognize the name. I don't.
And if you
what
read
happens in the
Blake's
movie,
review
but-
for it,
Hold
he's
up.
basically giving a Jordan Belson compliment because
Okay.
he compliments the visual effects. He's like, it's not a great movie, but the visual effects are really good. And it's
So,
like because
how many people have watched this movie?
that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
Like
I
Jordan
do remember
Belson
this
is just
movie.
Wait, what's the movie called?
Demon Seed. A decent amount of people have seen
Demon
it.
Seed?
Demon Seed. It's like about an AI using a woman to give birth to like an AI baby.
What the fuck are you watching, Blake? What the hell? Julie Christie stars in it?
Yeah, she's actually pretty good.
Damn.
A Jordan Belson review. That's funny.
No, because like think about it, like
Yeah.
because so basically every time they show the AI talking, they use Belson's imagery for like just the Allures imagery and stuff of all the shifty and stuff.
Well, I mean, movies
And it's like
nowadays are still doing that. Like, the fucking Mission Impossible literally just did that with the AI there.
Yeah,
Like, if you
yeah.
remember the Dead Reckoning, like, the AI thing is always, like, these little blue
Mhm.
lights moving around and shit like that.
That's interesting.
Do
I
you
don't remember
remember that?
exact. I remember the AI. I don't remember like the.
It's in the
visuals
club
and
scene,
everything.
specifically in Dead Reckoning, whenever we watched it. Because we still haven't seen part 2. Or I haven't, but...
Is the club scene like toward the beginning?
I think so.
I can't remember.
Because they're talking about the entity or whatever, and then, like,
Yeah.
appears behind them or some shit,
Yeah.
or on the walls. Just like...
But see, that's where it's like of course, like a normal narrative sci-fi have to have these like normal contexts. You know, usually this kind of AI that's like taking over or something.
Yeah.
Like negative, like, but to use this imagery, you know. But that's what's funny is like Belson is like influences everyone, even if you've never heard of him, which is
That's crazy. And I liked it.
yeah, no, the fact that you even you point out the visual effects in your review too is great. Because actually, some of the other visual effects kind of suck, like outside of that stuff. But,
Yes.
but yeah, okay, to keep going before we get to the movies. This is one more thing because I've been mentioning this. This topic has come out multiple weeks now. This idea of magic in cinema too, and this also has to do with Bresson's idea of fragmentation. And I've already mentioned this briefly about filming things, taking them out of context and putting them in new context. And he says, "quote The trick is to isolate the effect from its context. The role of the artist becomes that of assembling familiar objects in an unfamiliar way to get a totally different result, and to reveal perhaps hidden aspects of them. A galaxy effect, a whirlwind, a tornado, a spiraling hydraulic movements can be conceived on film from pouring, spraying, draining water. It is possible to film an area as small as 1/4 inch square, so it takes up the full frame of the camera, by using an extension tube. It is possible to make an optical printer out of 2 thumbtacks, as he did for Allures. With ingenuity, any natural phenomenon can be used in a way so it cannot be identified." And I think that's all these images. The fact that they're real images, but we can't identify them. It's like that's this pure idea of like abstraction and put them in new context. For new meanings. And then this is just maybe the last thing before the movies. It's funny because he the last movie. He started working with like video and computer effects, I think, maybe for like the last 2 movies he made. I think the last movie we're doing is from 1980, Infinity. But he made one even in like the early 2000s. But he already saw how were coming, And he says, quote, "It's not that I don't like computers. In fact, I consider computer art to be the wave of the future. God knows already where it's going from here. It's hard to believe what they can already do. But those areas were closed to me. My best bet was to work with simple mechanical and optical means that I could handle myself, and to stress individuality, creativity, and artistic finesse. That was the only way I could justify making films. Of course, you can't ignore the course of events. As a matter of fact, I feel somewhat obsolete. The drive of history just keeps on moving, and pretty soon you realize that you're outdated, old-fashioned, technically archaic, when at the time, not so long before, you might have been, quote, state-of-the-art, unquote. The avant-garde becomes the rear guard." I just think I don't know, that's like a very humbling thing for him to say. Like in a way, I kind of agree with him because obviously, like a lot of people might see this like, oh, like a computer can do this, and that's it. Like,
nowadays, yeah, for sure.
That's what I'm saying. Like a lot of people be like, but like to me, like that's especially if you like film history and stuff and how film is made. Like, these films are so special in that way, and then honestly, they still impact like this idea of someone doing this by themselves is really special to me. But yeah, I think we can go ahead and get to. I don't have that much on the movies, so obviously these are just like. But I'm gonna try to give some background maybe on some of the movies. So I know you guys said you didn't watch them in chronological.
No. Yeah, I just kind of watched them. How you? I guess it was in alphabetical.
I watched them in alphabetical order.
I mean, to be fair, I wasn't expecting you because expecting you guys to really remember. It's like I've seen most of these like at least 3 times.
Damn.
Most of them.
I mean, it's not that impressive.
Yeah, but they're not that long.
Yeah.
Plus, they're like honestly, this is the best way, especially for some brackages, but definitely for Belson's films. Like the best way I can say they're like almost like songs, like you can just come back to, like music.
Okay. You look at them while you're driving.
I do, yeah.
He sees them while he's driving.
Yeah.
Wait, do you look at songs while you're driving?
I'm just saying, like, you listen to songs while you're driving.
Some people can see music.
If you use like music, you're gonna watch it.
I mean, in terms of like, you can just kind of approach them that way. Like they're a little like they're not that long. You're going in for an experience, of these different kinds.
You should do a Jordan Belson concert.
That'd be kind of fun.
Concert. This is something that came up maybe for his later films, and this is more for people like if you're watching these and you kind of want to know more about something. I'm going to go over one by one, but because you mentioned this about Brackage about changing the music last week. Yeah. I wasn't sure if he would like it, but this one guy that wrote like he's like taking care of Jordan Belson's estate and stuff, named Raymond Foy, has like a bunch of quotes from him on this website. Asked him that, like, because apparently, like, as we hear it in Infinity, I don't know if any of the other ones we watched really have this kind of new age music, but Infinity definitely does. And someone asked, because apparently a lot of people didn't like the new age music Belson was adding in some of his later movies, and he was just like, well, if they don't like it, you can just put it on wherever you want, for the music. So he kind of did support the idea of just, especially maybe for his later movies, just changing the music if you didn't like the ones he was picking.
I mean, that's essentially what I said, where I was like, you can just look at this movie and make your own music for it also.
Yes, like the Henry Kaiser thing. Yeah, like you were saying, that, yes. Or at least like inspire kind of on, like...
Yeah, like inspire
creative process of, like, how to... Yeah, I agree.
What does he consider new age music, though? I guess I don't remember the Infinity one. The one I remember the most music from is Meditation, but that was, like, barely even music. It was
it's
just
that like, bell or that kind of gong or something, yeah. Oh, I mean, actually, maybe I should ask you that first. Is there any you remember the most? Like, what's your favorite of these?
Cycles.
Cycles? And if that's your favorite,
and
like,
Raga.
is there anything where the images stick out the most to you? Because
I like Phenomena probably the most.
Phenomena was great.
Like, what sticks out to you from that one?
Just like
the podcast
colors and the shapes, and like the one that like is like kind of the sky, but it's like not though. Or it's like sunset kind of, but like not though.
I mean, those are great descriptions of Belson's where it's like, is it or is it not?
Yeah,
like maybe he wants you to have that association, but it's not the exact
thing.
Those
like photos that you see, it's like, oh, this is what like a person's brain sees when they're like having a stroke. Or it's like all these objects like where you can like almost like kind of identify.
I haven't heard of that actually, like the objects people see when they have a stroke. I didn't know that.
Like people like.
But he would obviously agree with that. This idea of like internal imagery or hallucinatory imagery, imagery that comes from within. So I already mentioned so I have because you guys didn't watch them chronological, so it might not make as much sense to you. But for the people listening, we're gonna go over. I have them grouped in twos, just because I don't have that much on every movie, and I have some on more than others. But specifically, this first two distinction actually is kind of important for his career because the first two chronologically is Raga and Allures that we did. That's like a picture people say.
Like
I know what you're saying where you don't recognize anything. Yeah, I've seen this picture before. It's a weird familiar. Picture. Yeah. Damn, honestly, it's maybe not as cosmic as Belson or whatever, but I mentioned like these two movies to split first are actually important because he says up into Allures and basically including Allures is when he made what he calls impersonal films. Or what Sidney calls objects of meditation. So basically more of these kind of impersonal objects that you're supposed to meditate on. Like what he calls Allures and Raga too, which is more like a song. But like even with the kind of imagery, he says they're more depersonalized. That's for Raga and Allures. And It's funny he says that about Allures because I think Allures is still a little bit more of the maybe his future movies. Like Raga is more like just like a. It's still one of my favorites because it is just a song. You know, it's like you're watching this beautiful song with this kind of like bursting imagery of the
flowers
pattern.
dancing.
Yeah, it's like the kaleidoscopic. What do you say?
My notes on that one were just like I love ragas and it's like flowers dancing. So.
Flowers. I mean, if you have notes on any of these, tell me. Like just any words.
I have short.
Even on any of them, because I actually did this, and I might do this for future filmmakers. I do, like, especially for experimental. But I was going because I knew I was going to be watching these in order, and so I just started a list of like words that came to my mind while I was watching it, and I had this like long list. I was like adding to the list after each movie to see like all the different, maybe if there were similar things. A lot of it just incoherence. I don't want to read it, but like I might at the end maybe. But,
I mean, I had a few.
Because I was like, I could watch like this might honestly help with watching like a Godard movie, because where you're like he goes through so many things back and forth and like so quickly.
Yeah.
Like if you just write little things like the thought you have at the moment as much as you can, just like a single word or something.
Yeah.
And you try to read it after, like you can be like, oh okay, that's kind of what I was having thoughts of while I was watching it. Because like it's almost impossible to be like just know all the thoughts you had while watching like a Godard movie, you know, because there's so much. But yeah, same with Belson, because like this is the representational versus presentational thing, whatever you want to say it, that I bring up all the time is like if you really do take the images literally, or like you want to experience the images, like actually watch what's on screen, you can get so much out of them in terms of how they're shifting, how they're changing, like the same way with music, you know, how music is always changing, like the same way you listen to music. But if you're in the representational mode, like I need this to mean something, I need to know exactly what it means, and I need to know that this shifting thing means this shifting thing, and I need to know that. If you're watching it from that perspective, you won't get anything really out of these, especially these movies, you know, because like they aren't representational like that. Even Belson says like, even if I'm saying this movie's about this in my head, like if you watch it and you don't get that, then okay, then it doesn't mean anything, you know. Like in terms of like his view is not a preferential meaning over like the viewer's meaning or whatever. But back to Allures, he considered at the time basically the most spaciest movie ever made in his quotes.
What do you mean by spacey?
That's
like,
what he says.
About space?
Yeah.
Bro, okay, the thing I had for Allures was Formation of the Cosmos.
For Allures, damn. That's funny, because he says it's the most spaciest movie, but then also he said he was trying to, more than any other movie, trying to show internal perception as well. Like this idea of like those dots that are always changing, you know.
Well, because like these were the two thoughts that I had while watching it. Was like one was the formation of the cosmos, and the second was the brain function, like brain fire.
See, that's exact, because like this is what his direct quote is. Quote: "It relates more to human physical perceptions than my other films. It's a trip backwards along the senses into the interior being. It fixes your gaze, physically holds your attention."
Yeah, like honestly, yeah.
And if you see the kind of circle, the more because this is actually another thing, if you see the shifting over his career, like in these early movies, you see the more geometrical, the circular patterns, and through the more later ones, you see the more cloud-like forms, the more like star forms, like the whole frame is filled up, you know. And then he says, at least about Allures before we move on, he says,
because honestly, like some of this stuff, honestly, you remember like in Oppenheimer, when Nolan like cuts the montage to like these little like particles, like
yes,
the best part of the movie.
Yes, in a way.
The best part.
Because I also just looked up Christopher Nolan, Jordan Belson, and the AI overview said no. Christopher Nolan cited the experimental filmmaker Jordan Belson's influence on his work, specifically regarding the visual effects in films like Interstellar.
Damn, Interstellar.
No one has referred.
I didn't even think of Interstellar.
I can see it though after saying it.
Well, I mean, he probably was like, "What did Malik do?" And then Malik was like, "Oh, here's Jordan Belson." Like,
wait, is the
like who's Stanley Kubrick?
Oh yeah, no one has referred to the 1983 film The Right Stuff, which incorporates footage from
actually, I forgot to mention.
Wait, The Right Stuff
films.
Belson, I didn't want to. I forgot. I didn't want to mention.
No one called that an almost perfect movie. Apparently.
So Belson shot like apparently 20,000 feet of film for special effects, and they used like 3 minutes of it in the movie. It's like some of the landing stuff. I haven't seen the movie because it's like 3 hours. So I didn't watch it. Oh, is it good?
Yeah.
I know people like it actually a lot.
It's been a while. Since
there's one scene specifically that I really want to see where it apparently shows like, because that one's based on like I forgot who space travel. Is it John Glenn or something? But one of the astronauts when he
remember
stepped
which
out,
television
he
it was.
reported seeing some like glowing lights.
Yeah.
And in the movie, they like Belson he did the visual effects for that. And I really want to see like what
I
that
didn't
looks
know
like
that
in the
Jordan
movie.
Belson did the special effects for the
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
That's pretty awesome, actually.
No, it is crazy. But he said the reason why I didn't mention it is because he's like, the best part I got of working out of Hollywood was the money. That was the thing I loved the most about it, was I appreciated getting a lot of money. Which is funny. But he said, before we go to the next two movies, he said what he learned with because he says Allures is like his first like serious movie, he would say. So he doesn't even like, I'm like, dude, Rock is so good, but Allures is the first movie where he started to film real stuff instead of animation, so that's why Raga is like more kind of his old style. But he said Allures is when he started to learn the importance of, quote, rhythm, spacing, and slow fading in and fading out. And I mean, all three of those, especially that last one, like the fade in and fade out is like just so crucial to watching Belson's like, images that are always transforming. Versus
it's like,
versus cuts, that you
Yeah.
normally think of. It's like everything is a fade in, fade out.
The fade in and fade out also definitely helps with just the cosmological and spacey nature of the
Yes.
movies, as he would say, I guess. Spacey.
Even though I say that, and then some of the best moments is in movies where, because you get used to the fade in and fade out, and then all of a sudden it'll cut to just black.
Yeah.
And that's like really makes you feel like the cosmos kind of feel, and then all of a sudden like a little light will show up, or like stars will form or something. And so, to go to the next two movies I had grouped together were Phenomenon and Momentum. And this is where P. Adam Sidney says, like, basically all the next movies we're doing, he says, opposed to his earlier personal films, these later films are, quote, the meditative quest through interiorization of mandalic objects and cosmological imagery. And basically he's saying is, if the first two ones were just meditational objects, these later films are basically trying to show what the meditation quest is like literally. Like Belson's, like he says, he's trying to film his own mental processes, and that's why he was a very spiritual man, like how he lived too, because he said he was trying to film these spiritual experiences in a way. And so that's where Sidney says these later films are more about that kind of journey itself rather than just something you meditate on, and that's what makes them personal, because he said, Belson says they're his personal experiences. Phenomenon, Gary Youngblood also says is the first film for Belson to abandon the space and astronomy allegory, like Allures has in some of his earlier ones, and instead, he says the substance of the film is the Buddha equating samsara with nirvana. And let me read what he says. His quote: "In Buddhism, the phenomenal universe of physical matter is known as samsara. Its antithesis is nirvana, or what they call beyond phenomenon. Also within samsara exists maya, Sanskrit for magical or illusory show with direct reference to the phenomenon of nature. Thus in the Diamond Sutra, Buddha equates samsara with nirvana, since both contain magical elements, and asserted that both are illusory. This is the substance of Belson's films." And just that idea of, like I was saying earlier, the physical, metaphysical, or inner outer, kind of equating the two. This is a similar type of thing, the Diamond Sutra with the Buddha saying nirvana and physical matter are the same thing. They're both illusory in a sense. And then Gene Youngblood, it's funny that you pointed out that specific image of those kind of like shifting, what he calls a mosaic field of hundreds of hard-edged bullet-shaped modules in a series grid.
Yeah.
That's a great way. I don't know. I have no way. I wouldn't know how to describe it. But even then,
describe any of this.
I will say, a lot of these, like when I was reading a lot of these articles and stuff, it's fun to kind of read their words, being like a whole paragraph of like, this is what the film is. Like, it changes from yeah, like a lot of them have. I didn't really want to read them all because, like I said, like I can read that phrase, a mosaic field of hundreds of hard-edged bullet-shaped modules in a series grid. And if you had never seen this film or you never seen that image,
yeah,
that would not come to your head. The image on screen, So that description only makes sense after you've seen the image.
Yeah. And
like I'm just thinking of this now, but a lot of representational cinema is like, if I say what the movie is about, you could actually get it in your head before you even see it.
Yeah.
Like Channing Tatum is in space or something.
Damn. What did Channing Tatum do?
I was actually thinking of Chris Pratt in The Passengers. I don't know why I was thinking of that one.
Damn, Channing
And
Tatum.
maybe that's a space
Catching
movie.
a stray out here, dude.
But it's like it's a space movie, but it's like super representational.
I haven't seen that movie.
Allures? It's not great.
Yeah, I don't really have plans to watch it.
Does that have any montage of space or anything? I don't even know.
There is no. Well, I mean, I never want to say no to like
doubt it.
montages in space.
Does every
Just
movie
with
have
space movies,
montage?
bro.
Yes or no?
Yeah, I mean, if you consider
That's so
montage as
cool.
editing,
So therefore, it has montage because it's set in space.
'Cause it's
maybe
in-
overt montage is the way I would say. That's usually how people mean
What is
montage.
overt montage?
Like it wants you to realize the attitude on screen.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
You know, but maybe this is why. Do you remember how the beginning of Phenomena starts?
It starts with music.
This like rock music.
Yeah, it starts at a because
yeah.
my notes for this is I'm at a concert and then I somehow end up in space basically.
Ooh,
So-
I like that. I like that because that's basically like you could say, yeah, yes. Because damn, I forgot to put this quote, but if you listen to the audio soundtrack of the film, it's basically that kind of quest too. Like I mentioned earlier, samsara being physical phenomenon and nirvana being this kind of transcendent experience at the end. The soundtrack even you could say kind of takes this way for Belson, where he says like the soundtrack starts with this kind of rock music and it slowly goes to this kind of like I forgot what the music is at the end. I think it's like some concert music. I forgot what it was, but anyway, it's more like less chaotic, basically.
Ethereal or something.
Yeah, more ethereal. And he says because he's talking about the beginning of the movie, and Belson says, "quote The man," because we see at the beginning also with the rock music, a man and a woman like briefly appear, and they kind of it's like really shocking for Belson because like he barely uses like especially real people imagery, you know. But this is how he explains it, where he says, "quote The man and the woman are Adam and Eve, and if they're anyone, I see them as rather comic at that point. At the end of the course, it's pure consciousness, and they're like gods. The end of the film is the opposite of the beginning. It's still life on Earth, but not seen from within as samsara, but as if you were approaching it from the outside of consciousness, so to speak, from cosmic consciousness, as though you were approaching it as a god. You see the same things, but with completely different meaning." And you can say,
Because the last shot is just the orb, right? Or it's just like the circle in space.
I don't have the last shot. I don't remember. You
I
might
think-
remember. Actually, I have this.
Because I think that's how one of them ends, and it
Oh.
might be this one, but that would make perfect sense with what he was saying. So, because that also kind of reminds me of 2001. Because one of his movies ended like that, and that's exactly how 2001 kind of ends. So,
Damn, I don't think I have it, but
Oh.
he does end it like that. He ends with this kind of white light a lot, so it might not be the only one. But
it might be cycles too. Now that I think about it.
actually. P. Adams Cindy points this out, but we didn't watch them. We didn't watch all the movies in chronological order, obviously. But he says even at a certain point within these films, like where he ends one film, he starts the next one,
Okay.
and that's actually important for these specifically because
Jordan Belson would have loved the MCU.
oh my gosh, I mean, no,
He died in 2011. Never even got to watch Infinity War.
You know, he was looking forward to that too.
Yeah, if only.
But what do you think Momentum is about? If you have anything,
So
if you remember
It's
anything
about
from it.
momentum.
my notes is it felt like I was looking through an airport or like an airplane porthole, just up at the
Airplane.
sky, kind of.
Okay.
Like always coming in with these like detailed.
No, I
ass,
like these descriptions a lot.
Me, I'm just like
this is like what you're
some
trying.
cool shit happened. Like,
Some
it looked
cool
kinda,
shit
it looked kind of cool, dude. I'm not gonna lie.
But I like the more specific stuff too, because like I think like
It felt
obviously
both
that's-
microscopic and whatever the opposite of that would be.
Macroscopic.
Macroscopic.
No, I'm just kidding.
Is that actually what it is?
I don't know if that's what it is or not.
What's the opposite of microscopic?
Well, we should say this is maybe we've talked about how have we categorized directors in the past in a certain way. I brought it up last week with Brackage with Star Garden.
We'll characterize. What do you say?
How do we categorize directors?
Moon and sun.
Yeah. He considers this movie basically his movie
sun
about the
movie.
sun.
Yeah,
yes, 100%. That's why I said looking at the sky. You're
Yeah.
really close because I mean you were basically right too in your own way because he basically says this is so we didn't one of the movies we didn't do is called Samadhi that he did and that's kind of about basically it's supposed to be the highest state of like nirvana that humans can reach in terms of meditation where the inner and outer become one in a way. But this quote is about how he ended that film, and he didn't know where he was going to start the next film. And he says, quote, "The whole secret of life must The whole secret of life must somehow exist in the solar image. Momentum is a kind of revelation regarding the sun as a source of life. Not only in our solar system, but wherever there is a sun, it's a source of life in that part of the universe. We come from it and return to it. Though we think of the sun as a gigantic thing, I think probably an atom itself is a small sun. In fact, our sun is probably an atom in a larger structure. It's somehow tied up with the essence of being. If you were to think of a single form that would be the primary structure of the universe, it would have to be the solar sphere. I mean, there's just so much evidence to us around that effect. Unquote. So obviously he's a sun director.
Obviously he's a sun director.
And he has this quote that I won't read the whole thing, but he says, "There's something magical about circles," which I also like.
There is something magical about circles, though.
Especially because in the part of the quote where he says later he says he's reaching for a combination of the inner and outer, and you can see the circle as that kind of like representing that, almost like the barrier between the inner and the outer. And like in one of my favorite, maybe my favorite all-time moment in any of the Belson films is the in Momentum. You see this like eye, and the star field behind it, and the eye just disappears, and they're becoming one.
Yeah.
And then Youngblood says that what distinguishes, he says, quote, if one.
His name's Youngblood is so funny.
It's kind of funny because my pediatric doctor.
Bro, my pediatric doctor was also Dr.
We had the same doctor.
Yeah.
That was great. It's
Not crazy. Not that crazy.
It's the same guy.
Youngblood is like. Wait, doesn't it?
What?
It sounds like a gang member name.
It sounds like you're like a rookie in the NBA or something. Youngblood.
Okay.
Wait, who said don't reach Youngblood? Who said that?
Is that the Bill Russell thing in like Kyrie? Was Kyrie dressed up?
Oh,
it's
Kyrie.
Uncle Drew.
Yeah.
Damn.
Bill Russell?
Yeah, I was like,
he's dressed. Oh, Bill Russell's in one of those commercials.
Is he? Okay.
Or Kyrie just dressed. Oh,
Kyrie is definitely dressed.
He's got the white hair.
Yeah. It's Uncle Drew. I was like, Youngblood just like sounds familiar. Sorry.
It's funny because I don't know exactly what he means by this quote, but I'm going to read it because I think it's interesting. Where he says, "quote If one were to isolate a single quality that distinguishes Belson's films from other quote-unquote space movies, it would be that his works are always heliocentric, whereas most others, even 2001, are geocentric. The archetypal nature of the sun is that Belson's obsession with it has, at times, tended towards a certain mysticism that was no doubt unavoidable. That he would someday make a movie exclusively about the sun was inevitable. That it would be his least mystical work came as something of a surprise." So I love how he says, like, I mean, all of us, I don't know if you're as much as an NBA fan as we are, but if you're an NBA fan, you've definitely heard the word heliocentric before. So that's where I always come up with, like,
Heliocentric.
Heliocentric.
Heliocentric?
And it's like where you're describing...
Sounds like a dinosaur.
It revolves around the ball.
Well, you're describing a star. Like, usually teams that are built around a single star. Those are heliocentric systems, like James Harden or something, or LeBron in his prime, where, like, everything revolves around one player and what they're doing, and he says, like, Jordan Belson's films are like that. They're, like, heliocentric. They're based on the sun. Like this kind of circle in a way. And I thought this quote was the quote I read earlier about Belson was about the Samadhi one, but this actually is the one where he says he didn't know what he was going to make after Samadhi, so he said, quote, "So I had to keep working just to maintain the momentum from Samadhi. I had no preconceived idea what the new material was about, but I was calling it momentum. Eventually I discovered it was about the sun. I ran right to the library. The more I read about it, the more I realized this was exactly what momentum was about. All the material was similar, if not identical, to solar phenomenon, like corona phenomena, photosphere phenomena, chromosphere phenomena, sunspots, plasma storms. I was even getting some interesting stuff speculating about what goes on inside the sun. And I realized that the film doesn't stop at the sun. It goes to the center of the sun and into the atom. So that was the film, about the sun as an atom. The end shows the paradoxical realm in which subatomic phenomena in the cosmologically vast are identical. Through the birth of a new star is where it happens." And that's like my favorite, because like obviously this goes with that whole quote of the inner and the outer, as I've been saying, but that where he says this film ends with the paradoxical realm where the subatomic and the cosmologically vast are identical, with the birth of a new star is like literally true. Where the birth of a star is like tiny, like a subatomic, and at the same time it births like the cosmologically vast, a whole new star, with which what everything revolves around. I just love that idea. And Yeah, basically, like, if you watch this movie, just pay attention to, like, what the sun is, or, like, the kind of, because I did realize watching it the last time I watched it, like, there's even, like, shots where you see, like, it actually feels like he's, like, filming almost a surface of the sun, or, like, what he would think.
This is the one where you can see the solar flares, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because...
That's what he was even saying, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like some of these shots. But, let me read Susan Hansel, what she says about it before I go to the next movies. Where she says, quote, "The atom becomes the new sun. Belson records his birth. It arrives in a background of stars. One has moved to another scope, another side which has no bottom, no end. One feels that this new life will grow again and again and create another star. Momentum is a story of a creative process. The universe is a creation reflecting a larger creation. Through the depths of the sun, one reaches the source, the cosmic creator. The film is a gentle, subtle reflection after the fast-paced intensity of Samadhi." Alright, and the next two I have... Maybe the next one I have is meditation. That's, this is honestly one of my... probably my favorite of all these, maybe. At least the one I've watched the most. And it just has this, like, This is the one also it's easiest for me to remember just because it has, like, the same color almost throughout, which is, like, the blue.
Yeah.
That kind of blue color, and it's, like, more about water imagery, specifically, you know. This kind of flowing... I don't know, is there anything you
I remember the sounds of this one the most,
yes,
like,
okay.
for sure. Like, I don't even have any notes on this one because my notes would have been just meditation. Like, it perfectly matches the name of the movie.
No, it does. I mean, this is one that just feel like, especially the color palette, and, like, it feels a lot more, like, just flowing. Like, this. That's why the water imagery is so good, because, like, it starts with I think a diver just dumping into water. And all of a sudden, the image transforms, like, right when he hits the water and stuff. But let me read a quote where he said...
I like imagery in this one, too.
Yes. No, that's what I was saying. No, especially the end of this movie, where they call it the cosmic eye. It's like they call it I think William Wee says it's like it's a reoccurring image in Belson's movies, this cosmic eye.
Yeah.
But... I think I already mentioned this ending, where he says, the cosmic eye, in meditation, its most striking appearance is in a passage near the end of the film. A star-filled night sky surrounds a bright iris, in whose pupils more stars are visible. Then the iris fades, and the whole screen becomes an endless space of stars, and galaxies are revolving around a point at a still center. For the cosmic eye, distinctions between inner and outer, center and peripheries, closed eye and open eye vision do not exist. Its point of view, in T.S. Eliot's phrase, is, quote, "more distant than the stars and nearer than the eye," unquote. Yeah, and then P. Adamson, he says basically the same thing. Of the evaporation of the corona identifies the observing consciousness, the whole, with this object, the stars. And so, like, that's just like, it's just like a simple way to, like, you don't even realize it's happening while you're watching it, but this little circle in the middle of the screen, you automatically associate with the eye seeing something behind it, you know, the stars or something. And then the way he just transforms that to make it become one, you know, where the eye and the galaxies become one at the same. It's just like, it's so good. And just kind of that flowing, the kind of fade in and out technique that he uses so well. But this Belson quote I had, maybe before I go to the Chakra movie, where he says, this is about meditation generally, where he says, quote, "I'm someone who likes to look at the same thing day after day. Instead of being boring, it's more intense. My whole life is repetitious, but that heightens my focus and concentration. I'm really only interested in the inner workings of the human mind, and I don't have to go outside of experience for that. And the feedback I get from the artwork itself informs that state of mind." Based on the same kind of wavelength, is William Weiss calls this movie an extended visual metaphor of a mind in meditation, which I kind of love, because it's like, I think that's why I'm so drawn to it, because it's almost like I'm like, I don't have to do the meditation work myself, almost, in a way. I'm like, it's like the film is, like, images are helping me with that, reach that state, you know? Instead of me just closing my eyes and having the experience, it's like, this is kind of what a mind in meditation is, at least the metaphor for it visually.
Well, that's why I love whenever the sounds appear, because it gives you just enough time to have things start coming back into your mind, and then the gong sounds again, it like blows everything out. Because the sounds are very loud. Like, that is the one thing. Like the gong is very loud in this movie, because like it would make Leia pop her head up every time it happened because she would just be zonked out, and then she'd just like pop her head up whenever the gong set. And I was like, yep, that's kind of what it's trying to do. Like, get those memories out of your mind, basically.
And you saying that reminded me of another thing that's a really big part of yoga is breathing. And I forgot what movie it's in. I don't know if it's in one we did, but in one of his movies, he breathes himself over the soundtrack, and Kubrick does that in 2001.
Okay.
At the end, same thing with the breathing. But this one, like, it's more like I just in the meditational context, breathing is super important as well. You know, it's like you know, like you almost said, like breathing, like restarting, like your thoughts in a way before they get to before they go off somewhere. But yeah, and then the next movie I had was Chakra. Do you guys know what? I don't know that much honestly about chakras too, but have you guys even heard the term before?
I've heard of chakra. I've heard of chakra before.
Chakra, maybe.
That feels like a term you would like.
It's more like Tibetan Buddhism,
but because I definitely watch movies.
I mean, YouTube boys love mentioning Buddhism, bro. So like,
it's basically
like they have to realign. They have to like realign your chakra or something, like your chakras or something.
There's a town in India called Chakrata.
It's basically in Indian. I guess like Tibetan Buddhism and Indian Buddhism and just I don't know what other schools have it and stuff, but it's basically this what they're known as sacred centers of the body. This like he says 7 chakras that are like over the course of your spine, and I
just want to realign my chakras.
Honestly, yeah, my back hurts just thinking about it. But, he says they're usually depicted along the back of the spinal column, starting from the bottom and going to the top, and then over tradition, each chakra has its own like characteristic over time. And he says, quote, "Whether or not you believe the chakras exist, this tradition and literature do exist, and many intelligent people have taken them quite seriously. In Chakra, I was able to transfer the traditional order of the chakras into a film, starting with the first, lower chakra, and working up to the 7th, top chakra."
Is it the one with the insane globe shot transition thing? Where it's like the green?
Yes.
Like goes into like the globe?
Yes.
That shit went crazy.
No, I know the green. Yeah, there's a lot of green in this one too.
Yeah.
Also, do you remember the sounds in this one? Because the sounds are also really important. Because he says, that's a thunderstorm towards the end. Because you know how he just said the 7 chakras start from the bottom, go to the top, and they have different characteristics. He said, quote, "While I was doing the soundtrack for Chakra, I came across a list of sounds that people have reported hearing when in deep meditation. Traditionally about 10 sounds. The first is what they describe as the sound of a honey-intoxicated bee. Then there's the sound of a motor, then the sound of a bell, the sound of a flute, and the sound of thunder. I just went right down the list, exactly as listed in the book, and put those sounds on the soundtrack to accompany the chakras." And so if you listen to, like, you literally hear the bee, like, you hear them in literal order as the chakras go up to this kind of, like... Because, like, you know, the lower spines are supposed to be, like, less spiritual in a way, you know, and then the chakras go up. They're supposed to be, like, more... I forget what they all represent. But... yeah, I think that's just something that I just wanted to kind of point out the principle behind this one too.
Interesting.
And then the last 2 I have is Cycles and Infinity. I know, Blake, you said Cycles might have been your favorite.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of mine too. It's like
so unique. I like both of these a lot. Honestly.
Is there anything that stands out? Because this one, even first of all, he co-directed with this one, so that makes it unique.
Which one? Cycles.
Cycles, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it's very, like, is there anything that sticks out specifically about this one? Because the co-direction is extremely important to why this one stands out.
So, what I remember most from Cycles is the skydivers.
Oh, yes.
Like, 100%.
Yes.
But it always feels like you're looking down at humanity, kind of.
Yes.
Or, like, you're always
especially when you're watching
like an aerial point
of
view. Like, I don't know. Like, you're always in an aerial point of view, like, taking in things, so kind of, I don't know.
This shit made me dizzy.
I like this one a lot.
This one is is there any hints of why do you think it's called Cycles?
Because there's a lot of, like, circles and shit.
Okay. I like that.
But you can say that about a lot of his movies.
Cycles of life, maybe?
Now you're closer.
They're all, like, going one direction and then eventually going to return. So therefore...
I mean, metaphysically, yes. Like, have you heard of the term eternal return, that concept?
No.
It's like, Nietzsche made it popular, but he got it from, like, more Hindu philosophy. This idea of everything does return. But also, he got this idea for movies with cycles with the co-director Stephen Beck. where they got it from this book called The Holy Science, which is basically in Hindu cosmology. It's not linear. Cosmology is cyclical. And you go through what they have, at least in the book, The Holy Science, what he says are 12 grand cycles that humanity goes through. And he says, quote, "In the Holy Science, the characteristics of each individual cycle are explained. Here again, truth is not the issue, only the use of an attractive metaphysical concept. Each segment of cycles represents a period in the cycle of human development. I will never tell anybody to look at one of my films for any precise information or spiritual teaching, even though I, myself, may have derived inspiration from sources like this." And then the interviewer asks him, "So your films are more expressions than teachings?" And he says, "Exactly, expressions of ideas and experiences that were meaningful to me. I'm neither teacher nor scholar." But that idea of it's based on the 12 cycles of human development based on this kind of Hindu cosmology. And if you watch the film, because I watched it again knowing this, basically, Stephen Beck he had this video synthesizer. And Belson basically was trying to find a way to make, to integrate his film with video at the time, to kind of create a new kind of, like, to basically evolve his art in a way. And so he liked this video synthesizer from Stephen Beck in a way. And so what they did was use Belson's imagery, and for every cycle they would run it different ways through this video synthesizer.
Okay.
And so if you watch the film, you will notice these repeating motifs, but they look totally different synthesized. They might add more representational stuff for the different cycles. But each cycle is supposed to, represent these kind of cycles of humanity, one by one. And even the sounds, they did the same way.
So my theory of them looking down humanity was correct.
100%. Like,
well, no,
you say them, but I don't know if you remember this had one of my favorite shots in the Belson movie is actually the very beginning of this one. Let me see if I have a screenshot to show. Yeah, this one. The arms reaching out.
Yes, yeah, like the man.
Yeah, you see this like it's such a crazy shot too, because like he just starts it with this guy too.
Yeah.
Like you barely see humans or like human-like forms in Belson. So then like he just starts it with this person reaching out their arms towards you.
Like giving you a hug.
I know, it's like very like warming. It's like very encompassing. But that was supposed to be like this. They're saying the Hindu god Shiva, which is a creator, sustainer, and destroyer.
Was it
all at once?
Back too, right?
Yes, it's the same being that comes back at the end. But now it's like it has this like raining
confetti
stuff. And to me, it was like rain.
Confetti. That's
but it's coming down on them.
And he was like,
But it's coming down on him though. That's why I was like,
so
look,
confetti,
it's like a rain shower.
Confetti comes down on you, right? You think confetti falls up? Like,
this guy.
It can be.
That is true. That's true.
Like that's the point.
It has more force, more gravity. Maybe that's what I was saying.
Bro, have you seen some confetti? Some confetti has some gravity, bro. I don't know what kind of confetti you've been like seeing, bro. Like the stuff I'm seeing, dude. Like it has some force, dude. Like there's some confetti that has some motion.
Big time.
Big time motion, yeah.
Make a film of it.
I don't know if I'm that passionate about it.
But
just be Luke confetti cannoning someone like.
Let's see that Danny, so I can teach him a lesson.
But Stephen Beck said one of his favorite parts. He says, "Quote: One element that was of particular interest to me was the human form. We used the video synthesizer to transform it and reveal its other dimensionalities. Jordan was known for purely abstract, non-objective imagery. You would rarely see anything representational in his work. So our collaboration also involved a combination of representational and photographic elements within a larger non-objective context. I think that's important even for seeing Belson's career, because even for the next movie, we see like he adds more representational stuff even compared to his more previous films. He's like starting to add more and more this kind of trying to combine the two in a way of his more abstract imagery with the kind of representational, with that same theme, combining the inner and outer, or the physical and metaphysical. To go with maybe what Blake said of Cycles being his favorite, Susan Hansel says, quote, "I found Cycles the most liquid and flowing of all of Belson's films. It is also a breakaway from galaxy and dot images to a softer, colored shapes and movements. For the first time, he has incorporated several representational images, including human figures in a cityscape at night. The indications are that film and video together multiply visual possibilities for metaphorical poetic expression immensely." Also, that last line just reminded me. Do you remember another movie that we've done on the podcast that has a video synthesizer in it?
Isn't it Sans?
Yeah, it's Sans Soleil.
Sans Soleil.
Yeah.
No, I literally brought up Sans Soleil when
You
you mentioned
did.
Jordan Belson.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I said
Yeah.
I said Sans Soleil because I remember like the there's like stuff in that movie like when it's talking like the zone and shit.
Yeah, that's a video synthesizer.
Yeah, I was thinking
that's
about
that's
that.
all the video synthesizer
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, it's the same kind of technology. But he's using like Belson's abstract imagery and putting it inside the same digital synthesizer. You know? It's also very similar. Honestly, I'm glad you mentioned Chris Marker because they both share the similarity of making the films by themselves, literally. You know, like the most independent you can make as a filmmaker. You know, no, that's honestly interesting. That's crazy. But yeah. Yeah, I already mentioned the part where the kind of being at the end is supposed to be Shiva, which is the creator, sustainer, and destroyer. And then Gregory Zinman says, Cycles thus simultaneously holds a praise to transformation and change, yet holds fast to the idea of an eternal return. So, yeah, this idea of changing and change, but at the same time, everything always returning. This very, the eternal return is a very Hindu concept. Yeah, and I just before I moved to Infinity, this last movie, I just love this idea of the filmmaker trying to find new ways, you know, and being, you know, humble enough to like kind of accept
Other
video,
input?
accept video, like not just stick, even though not just sticking to his old ways. Even though he has this, I couldn't find another way better to read this quote except for right now because it has the video kind of connection. But he has this quote about techies and whether they'll be artists or not, whether they're considered artists, and I think it's very relevant based on the AI stuff. Where he says, quote, "Techies will never be artists. All this technology and electronics is just a lot of bad ideas. They're throwing ideas like coal on fire and nothing comes of it. I don't mind the distinction of quote-unquote fine art. It will keep the different intellectual levels apart. Let them have their obnoxious media," unquote. Which I love. Which is like, it fits so perfectly for AI stuff. Like, I don't know if you saw that girl getting roasted for like her AI music app this week.
I think I did.
There's an AI music
Twitter,
app.
what's her name? Jasmine Girl or something like that.
If I saw her profile,
If you saw her profile, you would
Probably.
recognize it. But like, she's been getting. I don't want to get into
she
it.
made
But
AI music.
there's a AI music app where like you can like input your imperfect music or your songs or whatever, or even just input your lyrics, and it'll make a song for you. You know, with the melody and everything. Apparently,
Bro, just
I
taking
feel
away
like
And
this
then
has
I
a lot of
creativity.
potential being hilariously bad.
but that's why I love that first part of let them have their obnoxious media, because it's like that's what it is. You know, it's not what he calls
I know
fine
we're
art.
gonna get
It's
our new
different.
intro music.
Oh god.
But
No.
this is bad obnoxious media, though, because this is taking away the human mind's capacity to do this themselves. That's what's worse.
Hopefully, the human mind that wants to create art never considers that art.
You don't
That's
think-
what I would say. But hopefully, but
Wasn't there like wasn't there some like cinematographer that said that they loved like AI now?
Roger Deakins, I think,
Oh,
or he said
okay.
something like I'm not opposed. I forgot what he exactly said. Hopefully, he didn't get like clicked. I only saw the headline.
I did
Maybe
too.
it's out
I
of
didn't read the
context.
actual article.
I hope not, but at the same time, it's kind of easier for these older filmmakers to say this because like they don't have to deal with it. You know, so
It's like I won't see the,
Yeah, it's like,
the
oh,
consequences
yeah, maybe
of my
it is
actions
useful,
of these
yeah.
of my actions saying this.
But okay, yeah. Last movie, is Infinity. I also love this title. I mean, I
It's a great
love
title.
all these titles. But is there anything about these ones that you recognize specifically about this one?
So this was what, the fourth one? The
The-
fourth one chronologically or alphabetically that I watched.
Okay, maybe alphabetical. I was like, I don't know.
So alphabetically,
Okay.
this is the first one where I actually had in my notes that he's trying to make me meet God, or
Ooh, okay.
or a version, or like
Yes.
this is like what he's trying to send me. Like this is like his interpretation or an interpretation of like kind of just like God or meeting God or like this greater power. Especially just like the soft yellows is like what I remember a lot from this because I also have Stairway to Heaven in my notes, but
Damn, yes, there's that shot of, it's honestly one of my favorites, of in this like cathedral with the kind of gaseous
Yeah.
like form going up,
yeah.
and then the church disappears but the form stays, you know, and then just
It's
moves
amazing.
somewhere else. Yeah. Oh god, that shot's so good. That's where it's like I kind of love where he's actually putting a little more of these representational images to kind of give you that dichotomy, you know. with this more abstract stuff. And then he said, this is what William C. Wee says about the movie, where he says, quote, "As the film's structure suggests a movement from the finite to the infinite, so its imagery suggests a comparable movement from outward perception to inward hallucinations. As the sun becomes a spinning ball of light, it marks the transition between what Belson calls an external scene perceived in the usual way and a scene perceived with the inner eye," unquote. In a sense, the scene has not changed, only the way of seeing it, but for Belson, that makes all the difference. And no, I just love that. Just like that's a very Buddhist idea of changing not changing the scene itself, but the way you see could actually changes reality in this way. Not just changing outward reality, but changing inward reality as well. But yeah, that's Infinity. Like mainly the thing I recognize the most about this one is just the more nature shots, especially at the beginning, that I really love. Like this, just like the snow. I think almost like we see this like snow and this like tree as like the camera goes up. It just, and then by the time we're like in the galaxies at the end, it's just crazy. But yeah. Before I end, I just wanted to read, because I couldn't figure out another way. Just like some of my favorite Jordan Belson quotes I found. Okay, here's a few. Quote, "These questions of the universe are not really knowable. To be aware of the question seems to be enough. There's so much ridiculous simplification." And he says, "My works go to a lot of different places. You don't just go to one place and stay there. I don't come out and say what the final place is. I leave it to you." And he says, "I'm not afraid of death, but I dislike the idea of leaving behind a corpse, which is going to be inconvenience to other people. I wish there was some way I could disappear altogether." I think just that quote.
It's what the Buddhist monks do. They set themselves on fire.
Oh, immolation or something.
Yeah, immolation.
Yeah. But I even say disappearing to other people, like almost that kind of way.
Yeah.
Just because he says that inconvenience to other people, But yeah. Yeah, I think that's all I had. Yeah. I think Luke already read the quote from I was going to end with, which is like my favorite Belson quote, but you read it from the Raga review, where he says, quote, "Beauty. I like beauty. I can't help it," unquote. Yeah. Because I think that just honestly, that's a great way to summarize all his films, because I think there's something, at least in my opinion, beauty has this kind of indefinable quality, that has to be experienced more than just described, and I think that his films do a perfect job of that. Yeah. Actually, let me end. I have to just to keep with my stereotype. I have to end with not even a Belson quote, with a Bresson quote.
Oh my god!
Because it's so important that these films, like I said, Gene Youngblood says, the concrete images of these films are so important to the films. That the fact these are made by a person. And Bresson has this quote from his notes where he says, quote, "Your film, let people feel the soul and heart there, but let it be made like a work of hands," unquote. And so yeah, that's Jordan Belson. Next week we conclude with another director. I found out, you can say Belson said that he makes his films based on films he wants to do research on. So he does his research, and that's how he decides how he wants to make films. And you could say I found out about these last two directors I picked based on, I knew I wanted to do an experimental film series. I only found out about these directors after that. This last one is Ernie Gehr. I don't even know if I'm pretty sure I'm saying that right. Ernie Gehr. Gehr, his last name. But yeah, he's another experimental. They call him a structuralist filmmaker. But yeah, we'll talk about him next week. But until then, hope to see you floating through the clouds.